It's August 2025, and the war in Ukraine is entering a new phase. Far behind Russian lines, a fuel train sits idle on the tracks, 35 kilometers from the front, surrounded by some of the most heavily defended airspace in Europe. Safe, untouchable, or so Moscow believes. Then, before dawn, 4 FPV drones appear. They cost less than a used car. They fly on analog video feeds, steered by operators sitting hundreds of kilometers away. And within minutes, a train worth millions is burning 660,000 liters of diesel and aviation fuel, erupting into a firestorm that melts the rails beneath it. It isn't the size of the explosion that matters, it's what it proves: that distance no longer guarantees safety, that the rear lines are no longer safe, that a $12,000 strike can humiliate a superpower. This is the story of the Ronin unit and the attack that rewrote the rules of modern warfare. Now, to understand, you need to know that the Ronin unit sits in rooms with controllers that look like modified gaming rigs, flying drones that cost less than a laptop into places where no pilot would dare go. But this mission required 4 specialist teams working in perfect coordination, at least according to reports that emerged after the strike. Kabul 9 intelligence tracked the target for weeks, train schedules, route patterns, guard rotations, building a picture so complete that when the time came to strike, there was no guesswork. Alpha Unit intercepted Russian communications, tracking radio chatter for any hint the enemy knew something was coming. Next group, the electronic warfare specialists, created windows in Russia's jamming blanket, brief moments of clarity where signals could get through. In drone warfare, seconds of clear communication mean the difference between mission success and expensive fireworks over empty fields. All these teams worked in synergy to strike in silence with precision behind enemy lines. The drones used analog 5.8 GHz video systems, consistent with standard FPV specifications, not digital, analog. Why use outdated technology in 2025? Because analog has zero latency. When you're flying at 80 kilometers per hour toward a moving train, threading through narrow gaps between rail cars, even a quarter-second delay means overshooting your target. The FPV drones feature lightweight carbon fiber airframes from brands like GE PRC or iFlight, customized with larger lithium-ion packs for 25 to 30 kilometer endurance. They carry PG-7VL RPG-7 warheads, 93mm 2.6 kg explosive, and fly at 100 to 120 km per hour, or 62 to 75 miles per hour, with a ceiling of around 100 meters or 300 feet to evade radar horizons. The problem with analog is range. These systems are line of sight. At 35 kilometers or over 20 miles deep into occupied territory, line of sight becomes a fantasy. Ronin's solution? A relay chain, 3 repeater drones positioned at 500 meters, 200 meters, and 100 meters altitude, each acting as a communications relay. It's elegant in theory. In practice, it's challenging to maintain because each repeater becomes a target, and that's exactly what happened. Russia's air defenses spotted one of the repeaters, a modern Verba manpads, or what NATO calls a SA-29 gizmo, with a triple seeker of ultraviolet and 2 forms of infrared, locked on and fired. The missile tore the repeater apart. Mission over? Not quite. If the reported sequence is accurate, the backup repeater kicked in seamlessly, the feed flickered, stabilized, and the operators were back in control. Redundancy isn't a luxury in this kind of warfare, it's the difference between success and catastrophic failure. Crossing into Russia meant entering one of the most hostile electromagnetic environments on the planet. The R330ZH Zytel Electronics Warfare Systems jams GPS L1, L2, GLONASS, GSM, and satellite phones within a roughly 30-kilometer radius, often co-located with Russia's Tirada 2 for overlapping satellite link disruption. Russian jamming creates bubbles that Ukrainian planners counter by pre-programming terrain following waypoints, minimizing exposure time in each zone. Behind it, Russia deployed the Klashuka-4, adding another layer of electromagnetic chaos by jamming airborne radars on X-band and Q-band frequencies. And then there was the Pantsir S-1. Each Pantsir S-1 carries 12 57E6 surface-to-air missiles and two 30mm automatic cannons. Detection range 30 kilometers or over 18 miles. Engagement range up to 20 kilometers or a bit over 12 miles for missiles. However, these systems, they're primarily optimized for anti-aircraft roles and prove less effective against low-flying FPV drones operating at ultra-low altitudes. Ukraine knew the Pantsir was there. They also knew it had a weakness: limited missile capacity, 12 shots. So they launched decoys. 6 cheap drones, each fitted with radar reflectors to amplify their signature, flew ahead of the real strike package. The Pantsir engaged. 8 missiles left their tubes, chasing phantoms. The decoys died, each one costing around $200. The Pantsir had just burned 2/3 of its ammunition on targets that didn't matter. Now it was down to guns. The real FPV drones dropped to 10 meters altitude, skimming the grass. At that height, radar lock becomes nearly impossible. 10 meters was the sweet spot, low enough to hide, high enough to fly. Flying that low, at that speed, through jamming, while maintaining focus on a moving target, requires instincts that only come from hundreds of hours of practice. The train was now in sight. Reconstructed timeline: 05:45 launch, 07:30 border crossing, 10:32 first impact, 16:45 fire contained. At 10:32 a.m., the first drone closed the distance. The operator didn't aim for the locomotive. Instead, the drone punched through the third fuel car behind the engine, where the structure was weakest and the payload most vulnerable. The RPG-7 warhead detonated on impact. The operator's feed shakes as the horizon flashes white, then static. The explosion ripped through the tank car's thin shell, igniting the diesel inside. Black smoke shot 100 meters into the sky. The train's emergency brakes engaged automatically, but inertia doesn't care about brakes. The burning car kept rolling as flames spread. 90 seconds later, the second drone struck. Different car, same result. Then the third, then the fourth. Each hit came in 30-second intervals, fast enough to overwhelm response efforts, slow enough to maintain accuracy. By the time the fourth drone hit, all 11 tankers were compromised. The fire spread car to car, creating a thermal event so intense it began melting the rails beneath the train. Steel melts at around 1370 degrees Celsius. The fire reached that temperature and held it. For 6 hours, the train burned. Emergency crews couldn't get close. When the flames finally died, rails were warped beyond repair, sleepers reduced to ash, and the trackbed compromised for hundreds of meters. Russia's Ministry of Defense initially claimed a rail accident due to negligence, but Planet Labs satellite imagery confirmed the burn scar and warped tracks for approximately 200 meters. Salvage crews cut out the melted sections, opening a temporary bypass 3 days later, while redeploying extra Pantsir S-1s and Pol 21 EW modules across the corridor. The additional air defense assets pulled from other sectors revealed the psychological impact. Operational anxiety spreading through the supply chain, not to mention leaving other sectors with reduced or absent air defenses, more open for airstrikes by crewed and uncrewed aircraft alike. 4 FPV drones, roughly $800 each, 4 RPG-7 warheads, around $500 apiece, support equipment, relay drones, decoys, another $6,000. Total estimated mission cost under $12,000. Conservative estimate of direct losses over $3 million. The 660,000 litres destroyed equated to roughly 18 fuel trucks worth, with each day of rail downtime costing Russia an estimated $500,000 in diverted transport via secondary routes. Satellite imagery verified congestion at alternate depots like Likhaya and Volgograd within 48 hours. This strike demonstrated what military strategists have feared: the death of the safe rear area. Cheap, expendable, and increasingly sophisticated FPV drones can reach deep into supposedly secure territory and deliver payloads with precision that would have required million-dollar munitions just a few years ago. Fiber optic drones are immune to jamming. Analog systems with relay chains can push through interference that would cripple digital links. Autonomous terminal guidance means the drone can complete its attack even after losing the signal entirely. Ukrainian operators liken FPV missions to sniper work in the sky, demanding pinpoint focus amid chaos. Russian Telegram channels dubbed the strike the ghost hands of Donbass, reflecting its moral-sapping terror on defenders. The Ronin unit strike isn't an isolated success, it's part of a broader pattern. Strikes on airfields deep inside Russia, attacks on radar installations in Crimea, precision hits on ammunition depots, command posts, and logistic nodes. Each one executed with tools that cost a fraction of traditional munitions and delivered by operators who never leave Ukrainian soil. Every military in the world is watching this conflict and recalculating its assumptions about air defense, logistics, security, and force protection. The US Replicator Initiative, launched in 2023, invests billions in attritable drones, directly inspired by Ukraine's FPV successes. China's Wolfpack swarming tests and Iran's Shahed exports mirror this shift, while Poland to Australia now run FPV training schools based on Ukrainian tactics. Russia deployed some of its most sophisticated jamming systems, Zytel, Klashuka 4, Pantsir S1, and still couldn't stop 4 cheap drones exploiting gaps that traditional systems never anticipated. Emerging Russian defenses include microwave counter-UAV guns, laser interceptors, and AI optical tracking nets, but the cost asymmetry persists. A $10,000 laser shot barely edges a $2,000 drone. This near parity favors offense, forcing endless escalation in drone versus defense arms races. 4 drones, 35 kilometers, $12,000. The fuel train strike wasn't the most destructive attack of war. It wasn't the most sophisticated, but it might be the most significant, because it proved that the future of warfare isn't about who has the most advanced technology. It's about who can use available technology most creatively. Ukraine took commercial components, racing drone technology, and decades-old RPG warheads, and combined them in ways that defeated some of the most sophisticated air defenses ever deployed. Innovation matters more than inventory. Adaptability matters more than firepower. The strike is now studied in military academies worldwide, because August 19, 2025 wasn't just another day in conflict, it was the day warfare changed. By dusk, rails glowed red, a $12,000 lesson in war's new arithmetic. Distance no longer guarantees safety, expensive defenses no longer guarantee protection, and the most dangerous weapon isn't always the most sophisticated one. Sometimes it's just 4 drones, a relay chain, and operators who understand that the rules have changed. Hey, before you go, the YouTube algorithm thinks you're going to like this video next, so why not check it out?